Some commentators have wrongly described tasers as causing injury and being threatening, whereas in fact they prevent injury if they are used in a way that is strictly controlled, as it is in South Wales. That is why, following a wide-ranging review by the Chief Constable, Matt Dukes, South Wales Police will double the number of taser-trained officers during the course of the next year. The Chief Constable's review has looked at the best ways for police officers to protect the public and to protect themselves in the face of challenges including assaults on officers, as well as the national rise in knife crime and the impact of county lines, whereby big city gangs come into our area, seek to exploit people and seek to promote the use of harmful and seriously harmful drugs. I think the point that I would make very strongly indeed is that when a taser is discharged, it incapacitates somebody for a short period of time, whereas other forms of restraint, batons and particularly firearms, can cause injury and sometimes permanent damage to the person being restrained. The facts of the matter are that very rarely does the taser actually get discharged or fired. If you look at the visual, it isn't the blue part of the roundel that shows the number of occasions that tasers are used. That's the number of occasions on which they were authorised, some 2,000. It isn't the orange sliver, which is the number of occasions on which they were deployed. The silver, the almost invisible sliver, shows the number of occasions on which they were actually discharged, some 16 occasions out of 227 in which they were deployed in South Wales Police over the past 12 months. So it's very, very clear that the very presence of a taser can discourage the violence, can calm a situation down and prevent injury to police officers, to the public who may be caught up in an incident, but also prevent injury to the individual that's being restrained. In my role as the Police and Crime Commissioner, I've reviewed the decision made by the Chief Constable to double the number of officers who will be trained and able to use tasers. And I strongly oppose it because that's what the evidence suggests. I'm satisfied that the Chief Constable decision is in the public interest in every way. It's very important to stress that properly used, the taser is a mean of preventing injury, not of causing injury. Tasers frequently prevent violence against police officers and also against members of the public and the individuals who need to be restrained. So I've looked specifically at the way in which tasers are used by South Wales Police as part of my role, and as a result I'm very confident that the use of taser by our officers is proportionate and frequently prevents harm. And we will watch the way in which things develop to ensure that that continues to be the case. It's very frequently the case that the taser isn't actually used, that is fired or discharged, because its very presence has been enough to deter an offender. In the vast majority of cases where taser is carried, it isn't deployed, and even when it's deployed, in other words it's brought out of its holster, prevention of violence comes from the measures short of discharge, such as projecting a laser's red dot onto the suspect. The deployment of taser is carefully controlled, and it needs to be, because very often the individuals who are posing the threat may themselves have problems, may be going through a mental episode or otherwise be vulnerable themselves. And that is why enormous care is taken when training officers who carry tasers to ensure that they understand their responsibilities. Its use is also scrutinised closely by senior officers, by the Home Office and by other external bodies to ensure that tasers are only used to prevent harm to victims of crime, the wider public, police officers and to the person who needs to be restrained. I will monitor the results of this increased availability to ensure that any and every use of a taser in South Wales is justifiable, proportionate, lawful and necessary. I am satisfied that that has been the case and that serious injury has been prevented by their use to date. That's what I want to see continue, and that's why I support the decision of the Chief Constable to train and deploy more tasers in the future.